Welcome back to the Inspiration Station where stories spark action. I'm your host, Mr. U. Wherever you are and however you're watching this, thanks for making us part of your week. Today, we don't have a typical creative in our house today. We usually do have creatives on our show all the time, but this one, our guest is not a typical creative. He's a 20-year U.S. Air Force veteran, turned bodybuilder, guitarist, poet, and master storyteller. Peter Gunn is here with us. Thanks, Peter, for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Appreciate it.
Same here, sir. I'm excited about our conversation, man. I want to get into some aspects of your life because this is the Inspiration Station. So the stories that we talk about here do spark action for our listeners. So we're definitely going to be moving in that direction. But one thing I thought was interesting about your story, at age 12, you dealt with what you called morbid childhood obesity. Now, I'm just imagining what that looks like. But can you kind of explain what happened there and what is different about you now, besides just your physical appearance, from that challenge you had at age 12? Go ahead.
Well, first off, let me make your listeners aware that I'm only 5'3", so I'm quite short. But I was at 5'3", I was 230 pounds.
Wow.
Okay, so I was. That's what we mean by morbid obesity, where it's over the next level of obesity. Yeah. Okay. Right. So and the doctor told me that I wouldn't live long if I didn't exercise or change my lifestyle. So I had to get my head into the books because according to what the doctors wanted, according to what society wanted, I was eating according to what they wanted. So high carbohydrates, things like that. So I okay, wait a minute, this isn't working for me. I need to figure out something different. I wound up going to the library and sitting my ass down there and grabbing the books that are based on scientific evidence that have the thick layer of dust on them, okay? And then actually doing reading there where figuring out what's going on with me. And sometimes you have to eat differently for your body type, so I started experimenting a lot, and actually there was a 9-month stint where I actually tried going straight vegan. So that means no meat at all, and it wasn't for me, but I can make a one of the best vegan chip cookies you've ever tasted in your life. But you learn a lot when you do that. And then eventually I found out that, and it actually just came out about 6 months ago, they announced it officially that the food pyramid was upside down. So it's actually more or less, should we say, a psyop. So it should be turned upside down. So right now, everybody should be eating more meat and fats than they realize. So they might want to look it up and double check it, but it's been flipped now. So, and I had to figure that back out in the 80s. And when I started eating like that, all of a sudden the weight started coming off for me. So, I was really lucky to have discovered that.
Yeah, well, I love that, man. I love that story. And I totally agree about the pyramid being flipped. I'm seeing that in my personal life. In my health, it's definitely legit, at least where I'm concerned. You talked about how, I think this is your wording, how your purpose kind of began with a near-death experience that you had at age 7. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing that so much about how people are getting the purpose lights are being turned on after they hit or run into a near-death experience like that. What would you say is the moment that kind of challenged you and inspired you in your adulthood from that experience?
Mine was odd and unlike any other NDEs. Everybody says they saw a loved one. They saw Jesus. It was different for them than it was for me because you know what? I'm going to say this is I was treated like hired help. Okay. They looked at me like, oh, you're back already. I had an angel look down at me and I recognized him. To this day, I can't place him. But when you have that feeling of deja vu, like you recognize somebody, you've seen them before, he looked down at me and said, your job isn't done. You have to go back. And then I woke up back in my body, paramedics hovering over me. So it was that what he said that changed me. It was that angelic mandate, as you could say, that changed me forever. And I'm like, okay, I have to do my best to get back to humanity. It's one of the reasons why I served 20 years in the military.
I want to make sure you didn't freeze on me because you kind of froze. I didn't want to cut you off. Sorry about the pause there. All right. So one of the things that you said was pivotal in, I guess, the way the direction your life was going, the trajectory your life was going in, with the birth of your daughter. Why was that significant to some of the changes that you've been experiencing for yourself?
Well, when everybody has a child, they want to enroll them into things that they loved as children at that age. Of course, every parent that wants to do that. And I loved the classic poetry, the epics. Iliad, the Odyssey, Beowulf, things like that, Dante's Inferno. And I started, buying the books, collecting them around the bookstores for my daughter to read. But then I realized, wait a minute, why would a young girl want to read these? What's in it for her? Where are the heroines in these stories? And I started looking for them. They almost like non-existent. There's little bits and pieces, like in Beowulf, the feminine is portrayed as a demon or dragon. So what is that saying? It's almost like saying to our mothers or daughters or sisters, the hero's journey isn't worthy of them. So, it's almost like a slap in the face. So that's what inspired me to write the Amazons, is to enroll the feminine back into the hero's journey where it belongs.
Now, in stories, I've seen, a lot more of those kind of lead characters, but in poetry, I probably would say I have been out of touch with it a bit. I grew up writing a lot of poetry, so for me, it was pretty current back in the 70s and 80s, but, in today's time, I might be out of touch a little bit. Do you feel like we're witnessing the death of poetry as we once knew it, or do you think it just evolved into something else?
Yeah, it evolved into rap. That's where it went. Poetry evolved into rap. Its name changed, and that's what had me start up LLP. Because I started looking for, you hear a rap lyric sometimes or a song, and it just sticks in your head day after day after day. That beat just going in your head, and you can't get it out. Okay.
Sure.
A lot of times that comes down to neuralistic programming. Okay, that rhyme, it just hits in your head over and over. And that when I looked at that, and I turned it into LLP, or linked lyrical poetry. So then the rhyme is continuous throughout the story. So it's not just a rap song; it's a 46,000 word story novel. So and one of my good friends, she was my beta readers, and she read the Amazons, and then of course took a phone call immediately afterward, and she unintentionally kept rhyming when she was having a conversation with the person on the other side, she was talking to on the phone. And of course, they were surprised that she called me back, and they're like, "What did you do to me? Did you brainwash me?" She accused me of brainwashing her. Like, nope, that's the LLP. That's what it does. You like the beat, and it wants your mind wants to keep rhyming. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's where poetry went. It went into rap, and I just evolved it into a next form.
I love it. What's been the response from women specifically with the kind of work you've been doing in that regard, kind of giving a voice to women in poetry? Have you seen a response that's kind of encouraged you to keep it going? Have you felt like, you know what?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, I get so many letters and emails from females thanking me, for doing this, because they feel not misrepresented, but underrepresented in the genre.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. That's good stuff right there. That's good. All right, so there's a journey that you've been on with your life. You've made transformations to your body. You've kind of reinvented yourself from a career / purpose standpoint. You've obviously served your country faithfully. What would you say is the hardest version of Peter Gunn that, I say the version that was the hardest for you to become, and why was it a big struggle for you, or the hardest for you out of those?
Anyone that's served a while in the military can relate to what I'm about to say. It's to put the uniform down. Even after you get out and you have the paperwork in your hand, you still feel that urge to serve. You still feel that urge to push. So it's difficult to wait a minute, it's me time now. I could focus on me, because you're so used to putting service first. I'm not gonna say not every veteran did that, but I did it for 20 years. I put service first. I had to put everything I wanted to do on hold, like writing the Amazons. I had to wait because I knew it would take time that, I frankly didn't have. Because in my career field, the Air Force, it's normal to work a 12-hour day. Yeah.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So here's a question for you, Peter. If everything that you created disappeared tomorrow, it's just a hypothetical, of course, not speaking death over you, anything like that. But if everything you created disappeared tomorrow, your books, your music, your audience, what would you think would be the single prevailing truth that you want people to remember about you more than everything else?
My purpose was to uplift humanity, and people remember that. Okay, people remember that. Will remember me for my efforts not only in art with the Sigma Squad, not only in literature with the Amazons, but now in music with the Angelics. So it's a threefold thing. You know, people started calling me. Some of them even started calling me the Renaissance man because of it. Because I'm doing a threefold push towards saving humanity.
Okay, and by saving humanity, how is your plan? What's the focus of your plan to save humanity? What's that look like?
Well, it's to put, shall we say, little sparks of knowledge into their heads, okay, and hopefully, God willing, start the critical thinking process. So, a lot of times it's one word, one verse, one note, okay, and it will hopefully start the critical thinking process. Maybe there could be a covert part of the government, the CIA, that is actually running amok, like in the Sigma Squad. Maybe humanity can wake up. Maybe we can do better for ourselves. There's a lot of people that a lot of young girls actually that thank me for making the song "Half of Me," because they'll get into relationships and they don't see it right away. They usually it's always afterwards is how the guy only gives half of himself to her. He's not fully there in the relationship. And they see that time after time after time. And that's what I wrote the song about, to help warn young ladies about, men that, shall we say, aren't fully dedicated to them.
I got your website up on the screen, www.petergunn.net, petergunn.net for you guys that are listening but not watching us or haven't caught the replay yet, www.petergunn.net. You can find Peter and all of his work. Final question for you, Peter, and we'll go ahead and close the broadcast out today. You can let folks know where they can find you outside of the website. It is another location. But because you have a young daughter and you're talking about reinventing the feminine roles in poetry, and you mentioned about how young women have felt as though, even in relationships, they're not being given the whole person and only a portion or partial in aspect. What do you, as a father of a young daughter, what do you think your focus needs to be, or what are you adjusting to make sure that your daughter has all of you that she's supposed to have and not just a part of you, part-time here and there? Is there approaches you have to, is that an emphasis in your life right now based on all of those things?
Well, okay, when she runs into a hurdle, if she goes to her daddy and ask questions, that's if she stops that, then I'll have to intervene. But that's how if your daughter is asking you for advice, you're doing good. You're doing good because she feels open enough and you've open communication enough that she feels free to talk to you.
Got it. Is there anywhere where people can find you outside of petergunn.net, or is that the best place to reach you?
You could go to petergunn.net, or you could go to your favorite music app and type in the Angelics with 2 L's, Angellics. Our 2 albums are Hazy Hades and Elysium Fields. And there's a third one coming out later this year.
Congratulations on all your accomplishments, Peter, and thanks for being a part of this conversation and sharing your inspiring story with others. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
My pleasure, sir. U.S. Air Force veteran for 20 years, bodybuilder, guitarist, musician, poet, storyteller, Renaissance man, Peter Gunn with us. Thanks again for watching and listening to the Inspiration Station, where stories spark action. That's Peter Gunn. I'm Mr. U. Have a great day. Thanks again for watching and listening.